You're listening to Creating a Universe, a Love Anarchy podcast hosted by William J. Rogers. On this show, we follow the journey of creatives, artists, and entrepreneurs who are making a name for themselves in the ever-evolving landscape of today's industry. Featuring an insight into both Love Anarchy and the Lovaniverse music universe, as well as the individual projects and stories of each of our guests, from the music industry and beyond. So whether you're a budding creative or simply interested in what goes on behind the scenes, this is the podcast for you. Hello and welcome to Creating a Universe. I'm your host, William J. Rogers, and today I am here with Symphonic Metal vocalist, solo artist, and the new frontman of Fairyland, Mr. Archie Caine. How's it going, Archie?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Still recovering from travelling, but yeah, other than that, all good. Excited to see you. Actually, in person, so to speak, finally.
Yeah, face-to-face, we call it, yeah.
Pandemic
Virtual
style.
Face-to-face. Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, dude, I've been really looking forward to having this chat for ages, man. It seems long overdue. I've been following you and everything for a good while now, man. So I'm really looking forward to get into it. And thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. So the best place to start, as usual, is would you be able to give just a little bit of an overview as to who you are and the various things that you do?
Yeah, my name's Archie and I make noises with my face. Yeah, I'm a singer, a solo artist, a frontman now, a really cool band called Fairyland. And yeah, I sing things at whoever I can make listen, pretty much.
Cool, man. Cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, you've been involved in a bunch of projects now. You obviously have the solo album under your name, Archie Caine, Tommy and the Angels, which was released last year, I believe, right?
Yeah, just what's the date? Yeah, almost a year ago.
Cool. Wow. Nice. How's the reception been on that record?
Yeah, really gratifying, actually, to be honest. It was really nice to be able to get such a reception out of something that was really quite involved and complicated to put out, because it was all obviously done throughout the pandemic and no speaky, no touchy people time. So everything was virtual. But yeah, let's just get it out. Been really gratified by the reception. Met some really cool people as a result of it, obviously both from them being involved in it and also just from them having listened to it. So when I was in Amsterdam a couple of days ago, I met up with Mary and Astrid, who are really involved with Damian Wilson's fan base. Cool. So obviously I've met them because of the album and Damian featured on it. And so yeah, no, it's been really nice.
Wow, cool.
Where are my dogs now?
That's cool. Yeah, pets tend to make their appearances. It's all part of the part of the process. Yeah, that's great, man. Well, yeah, there's all sorts that I'd love to get into, because I know you've been involved in other really cool projects as well. And obviously, you know, as we're recording this, you've just recently been announced fronting Fairyland as well. So I'm really keen to dig into all of that. But as we're already on the topic, like, I'd love to dive into you as a solo artist and the Tommy and the Angels album, because as you say, that's a really massive project, right?
Yeah.
Like, how long were you working on that, and when did that even begin? And like, even just you setting up a sort of symphonic metal kind of solo project, how far back does that go?
I've got no head for dates whatsoever. Like a couple of years. I think cool. The idea was kind of swilling for some time, and it was kind of, so I don't know if you can hear, one of my dogs is really noisily drinking water next to me. Yeah, like, he's just like sloop, okay. Sloop. Yeah, so the idea kind of swam around for a bit, and then at the time it was just going to be just like a kind of 5-song something that I put together in my bedroom and just did myself on Logic, just something to do. And then I said to Bo, who is one of my oldest friends and an incredibly talented like songwriter and orchestrator, you know, would you fancy getting involved with me on this? They were obviously very much up for it, along with their wife Holly, who is music teacher, instrumentalist, composer, etc., etc. So the three of us ended up forming a bit of a threesome of it, as it were. And then I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I got Damian Wilson involved? And then somehow managed to wangle that. And then I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I got Dianne Giersbergen involved, and somehow wangled that. So it without me kind of consciously intending to, it kind of grew from a little bedroom pandemic
Snowballed.
project to this whole thing. And yeah, it just kind of took off from there with me frantically scurrying behind it. Because obviously there comes a point where a project hits a certain size and suddenly there's a load of other people involved. So far from it then just being a thing that happens whatever pace I do it at, I'm then frantically having to make sure that I keep up because there's other people who are now waiting on me for stuff so they can do the things that they've said they'll do. And yeah, I've said this before, but I think, if it had started out that big, I would have got terrified and finished it.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, I mean, that's great that it happened that way ultimately. And, to end up where it did is really wonderful. So just to get an idea though, did you start it like in your bedroom in lockdown type of thing? Oh,
the whole thing was done. The whole thing was done during lockdown. So everything was virtual. Right. There was we would, Bo, Holly and I would write songs by having Zoom calls and then sending files back and forth. And sometimes we'd both be sitting, like they'd be in their studio, I'd be in my bedroom, both of us on Logic, sending like the same MIDI stems back and forth to one another. Excuse me. For a couple of hours until we were happy with it. And then obviously most of the instruments on it were played by Adrian Benegas in Paraguay. So then it was another kind of round of distance file rally back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you had quite a team on this.
Astonishing people. No idea how I wangled it, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah. I mean, the people on the record, I mean, really at every stage you've got people involved other than the most obvious thing of you singing your lead vocal parts, but obviously so Bo and Holly are helping you with the writing and that initial like pre-production phase, and then you've got obviously Adrian and Diego, I think as well, also helping with the actual production. Obviously Dianne and Damian Wilson and stuff, so contributing their parts. So a really big production in the end. Yeah,
and then it was mixed and mastered at Sandlane as well.
Right, of course,
so Joost van den Broek and Joost Rieser, something like that. I may be forgetting that second name, but so they did the mixing and the mastering over at Sandlane. So it's been back and forth the whhole time.
Big process, man. So I'm actually really curious, like what did it sound like then back when it was just you in your bedroom? Or was it all just like, you said you were playing on Logic, so what did you have?
So it was, I mean, obviously I'm not really a musician, so like I'm like an instrumentalist. So I'm very good at sitting and like tapping out ideas into the MIDI thing, but that's about as far as I can go. So it was always going to have like, maybe I'd get someone off Fiverr to play a guitar track or something like that. So a lot of it at the beginning was really very basic, like vocals and some kind of instrumental audio to kind of sketch out a few of the shapes. Some of the songs already existed kind of fully formed, because I can write good songs, but it's not like a reliable skill that I want to write a song, I'm going to call on that like other composers that I know. So it's kind of the ones I wrote myself already were the ones that kind of dropped into my head fully formed, and then I had to sketch them out roughly before it disappeared again. And then there was just a lot of random bits. So that whistle at the beginning of Happy Ever After, I'd had that do-do-do-do-do-do. It's tune. It was just a tune that was in my head for ages. Same with the tune for it's my own song. What's it called? I can't stand this. I wrote the fucking thing. Where Tommy and his father fight. Losing the game. I'd had that chorus kind of call and response in my head for ages as well. And so then it was a case of, when we were setting about to write this properly, it was very much a case of, I've got this thing, can we make a song out of it, or should we slot that in? And then most of the time we did, and frankly that was a huge relief to me, because if I didn't, I'd then have to do something else with them. And you know how it is when you just can't get a song out of your head? Honestly, it was like that, but with my own stuff that wanted something doing to it.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. That's cool. So, I mean, really, a lot of the seeds do like come from you as a writer as well, and like you have these melodic ideas, and so I suppose you're making like very rough kind of demos or scratches or initial ideas by yourself, and then working with Bo and Holly to kind of develop those and arrange them and things like that.
Yeah,
Is that right?
for some of them, yeah. For others, it was a case of so I actually, having had the dream that kind of gave me the very, very initial idea for the thing, I ended up writing a short story to kind of, what was this scenario kind of thing. And so then there were some points where I'd already had a song that might fit. But the rest of it was, I gave the thing to Bo, said, can you go through this, break it into chunks and see where you think a song fits, and then what you think that song might sound like if there wasn't already one. So lots of them were done that way as well. Tommy's Lament and Chains and Faster. There were others, but they're the ones that particularly come to me. Faster in particular, I just got a random message with, I've been working on a song, see what you think about it. And even though it was all MIDI at that point, I opened it up and I just instantly got that do 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 do. I was like, yeah, so we're having that definitely. And
okay, cool.
Yeah, and Wonderland actually existed well before this project. That's another one of the ones that Bo wrote on their own, and it pre-existed the project. But I thought back to it when we were discussing kind of the song structure and what would fit where, and I thought actually that would go really well there. Please, can we have it for Tommy and the Angels?
Nice.
And luckily Bo said yes, and I think it fits perfectly. So, yeah,
that's cool. And I like for instance, there's a few different vibes here, and like the track of like Meeting the Angel, you have like this whole like almost new agey kind of ambient track to it as well. Like where does something like that come from? So
I'm a big fan of kind of working easy if you can, and I have a lot of like, I don't know, sample packs or whatever that I've bought from people because I like the sound. And again, I can't stand the name. I can't think of the name of this company now. Ghost Hack is one I like particularly. And
cool.
They had these ages ago. I scrolled past an advert for like a sample pack called Shimmer, which was like elven vocals and ambient type sounds, and I liked the sound of the advert, so I bought it, downloaded it, and then didn't really do anything with it for a while. And then I was trying to think of something that would be suitably like, oh, look, here comes an angel type of thing. And I had a look through that. And that was just a couple of their tracks that were put together that I was fiddling about to put things together, and it ended up that. And I thought, actually, that sounds really cool. So, yeah, I love it. I can't take credit for it, apart from thinking of using it there. Firstly, because it fits so well, yeah.
You put it together, I suppose. So I suppose it's more like, you use the pads or whatever that created that.
Yeah. So it's and it just, having discovered something that fit perfectly already, I kind of loath to disregard it because it didn't come from me. Because like someone else who's better at that particular job than me had done it, and it was brilliant. So I just stuck it in there, and then having Dianne's vocals over it. Yeah. And kind of mixing with that, which was just really elevated it. And I remember getting the first tracks back for that actually from her and Joost at Sandlane, just with the dry like recorded vocal stems. And I was listening to them with my phone up to my ear on a bus, and it's just the most enormous sound comes out of that woman. Honestly, you've got no idea. Insane.
Her performance on this record is astonishing.
Oh, mind blowing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like she was a perfect choice.
Yeah, but it was written for her before having asked her if she would do it. So it was just very much a case of, what we focused on writing first of all were all the ones where Dianne might appear, and initially it was just one song, the epilogue actually, which I wrote. That was the first bit of music that happened because that's the tune I dreamed. So that was finished first. I said to Dianne, will you sing this? And she went like, basically after listening to it a few times, she agreed. I said, actually, can you do a couple more songs to kind of fit you in through the whole story kind of thing? But yeah, the whole thing was written with Dianne in mind. And if there wasn't a Dianne, then there wouldn't really be a guest, because it was, I love her voice. She's one of my favourite singers, and it was specifically written with that voice in mind.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I want to get more into that, but I'm thinking now that, especially if people haven't heard the record or they're not aware of it, we might want to fill in a bit of gaps here and let people know that this is a concept album, right? You've alluded to a story, the fact that Diana is playing this angel character, and even your process began with this short story ultimately. So I'd really love to get a bit of an overview as to the story and what's going in the record, and then from there we can kind of fill in what Diane's doing there. Sure. So it's basically small boy, unhappy childhood, abusive household, dies when he's 12. It's a happy story. Ends up going to some kind of mystical heaven presided over by this maternal angel figure, where all the other kids who've died in similar circumstances live and are looked after by this angel. He can't get comfortable there, despite the fact it's lovely, because he's pissed at his father, who is the one who killed him. So he manages to kind of go back to this world, manages to, in a ghostly fashion, kill his father, and then thinks, oh, fuck, I'm stuck here. I made lots of nice new friends in that other place, can't get back there, no one here can see me, wanders around feeling sorry for himself, finds out that actually Angel Woman and all his new dead kid friends have come back to rescue him, and then they all go off marching into the sunset. Cool. Wow, that's a cool story,
So,
man.
Damian's the dad, Diana's the angel, and I am supposedly the 12-year-old boy, which, in terms of my emotional development, is pretty much accurate.
Amazing. Well, it's a great casting, and I'm not 100% sure, but am I right in thinking that the fact that Damian is the father is sort of unveiled as a little bit of a twist in a way?
Yes.
Because he's kind of narrating, right? And then there's that moment.
I was sickeningly pleased with myself about that. Like, 'cause it's so obviously, like, anyone who had kind of was remotely close to me or had seen it pop up in groups, whatever, pretty much knew that anyway. But yeah, there's this lovely bit where, because obviously Damian is the narrator as well, so the first voice you hear is Damian, but he's talking. The heavy hush fills the air, da 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 da, and he kind of narrates between a few of the different songs, kind of telling the story about what the father's doing. And it's not until just before his song, his duet with me, that actually goes that man was me. And I can, like, it's not done to toot your own horn too much, but I confess, even though I know it and I thought of it and it was my idea, it still gives me a little bit of a shiver every time I hear it. I remember calling Bo saying, what if we don't tell them that the narrator is also the dad until just before the song? And Bo went, oh, I like it. So that's what we did,
Yeah. No, I love it, man. It's a mic drop moment.
Yeah, I was, honestly, I was, as I say, sickeningly pleased with myself for that.
Yeah, cool. I really like that. I'm glad I picked it out then, because as you say, it has that effect. Like, every time I hear that, I'm like,
yeah, it's such like low rent theatrics, but it works. So
yeah, it's great. I mean, theatrics, as you say, that's what it's all about, right? It's a theatrical record by incorporating story in that kind of way.
Yeah, my obviously the music that I listen to mainly is like symphonic metal, power metal. My main performing background until all this relatively recently was musical theatre. So there's a lot of kind of blobbing together of the two concepts in, I think, this album musically, as well as also in like how I sing, because that's how I learned to sing.
Sure, yeah, you have that theatrical kind of voice, yeah. I mean, you touched on it there, but like, how would you, like, what style would you say that this is?
Unsure, 1 second. Dog, get down. Dog, get down. It's not quite symphonic metal, but it's closer to that than anything else.
Yeah.
I think maybe I don't know, it's light symphonic rock or something, but then after more than 2 words, genre names get a bit wank, so it's symphonic metal adjacent.
Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah, I like that about it, and I think that that's where a lot of good writing comes from. Is you're just doing what's authentic to you, right? And as you say, you have your symphonic metal interests and like your musical theater background, and they all come into a place which is quite natural. And if you're a fan of symphonic metal, it's totally adjacent, but it's not really fitting into a box that way. And I think that that's super cool.
Yeah.
I heard you refer to it one time as what was it, like symphonic pop rock?
Yeah, something like that. That's one of the best fits, I think, really. And there's parts where it's like even the opening track, Things That Go Bump in the Night. The brief for that, like, it existed roughly, but the brief for it that I kind of had in my head was in the same sort of musical box as Slow Love Slow from Imaginarium.
Nice.
Like Nightwish. Cool. That kind of that really quite piano-led, not driving sort of thing. And for the longest time, I didn't actually want that song to start the album because I didn't like starting it on a low. Not, do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a kind of drive-filled song. Yeah.
You saved that for the second track, right?
Yeah, but I couldn't think of another way for it to. There wasn't another way in which it all actually made sense, either musically or thematically. So that's just what we went with because I talked myself off the ledge of like doing it for the sake of like the very initial kind of noise impression, whilst fucking up the whole story and all what the lyrics of the songs are and everything is just pointless. It was a close call though, but I talked myself out of it, and also Bo talked me out of it. Dog, that bowl is empty.
And yeah, that's cool. And Bo and Holly, like, what's their musical background kind of like? Like, are they metal musicians or?
No, I think they're both just generally really good musicians at whatever. I know Bo has a particular fondness for country music, not exclusively, but I recall that's one thing that they're into. But I think, we've all known one another since I was, well, we haven't all, but Bo and I have known one another since I was like 17. God, I'm 31 now, so that's quite a long time. We used to like run open mics together when we went to the same music uni the first time around I studied. So just, cool. I think lots of different influences. And in that time, Bo and then Holly, who they later met and married, were just, spending that time learning how to be really generally good musicians, including working to a brief and kind of doing whatever they really needed to do. Whereas I'm very much a one-trick pony. It's not a bad trick, but it's my only one.
In terms of as a vocalist?
Or? Being a singer. Yeah. Like, I can't really play any instruments. I can write, but not like, I'd never say to people, hire me to write a song for you or anything.
Sure, yeah. But at the same time, like, anybody that's just listened to this can see how you've like pieced this whole thing together. Oh, yeah. I think that, that definitely takes something. And I think just knowing what to outsource and finding the right people to work in those different jobs, like, that's been well done. Yeah. But the reason I asked whether they were sort of like metal musicians or not was because I think that that's definitely really had its impact on the sound of the record. That you guys have not really necessarily gone to write metal songs. You've gone to write songs, which you've kind of metaled up, and it's made a more unique style out of it, right? Yeah,
that's the thing. None of us are coming really from the position of being, as you say, metal composers or prior to this, really metal vocalist, apart from as a kind of like, this is a thing I do for fun. But because that was the kind of, what's the word? That was the general kind of, I don't know, context we were operating within, despite our various varied kind of knowledge bases and experiences. So it ended up being what those various influences sound like when you're doing something akin to symphonic metal with them.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I do hear in places those different, when you say like pop, rock, there's these different kind of sounds and different influences from there. I feel like I can hear some sort of 90s and 2000s melodic pop kind of elements there. It's cool. It's not what you hear every day, and that helps make it stand out. Yeah, nice, man. And okay, so then, I kind of got a good idea now of how it all sort of started and came about. so that next stage of reaching out to people like Adrian and Dianne, Damian, how did that all come about? And what was that initial spark that even made you go for that?
I think the first thing was, I had just discovered Arion. Will you stop doing that? I just discovered Arion. And because I had discovered Marcella Bovio through someone who was an artist and did paintings of symphonic metal singers. And I basically said, she looks cool. Who's that one? Right, he said, it's Marcella Bovio. How on earth are you sitting there asking me who that is? But so I had a look, and it then led me to a performance of Songs of the Ocean from the last Arion live concert, where Marcella comes out singing for the pre-choruses and in the chorus, and Damian comes out singing as well. So the first thing I thought was, okay, so there's that Marcella, and wow, this guy's awesome. Like, that's the kind of singer I want to be when I grow up. Who is it? Did some Googling, Damian Wilson, And then I thought, and who's that other woman with Marcella? Looked her up, Dianne Giersbergen, and then I found footage of her singing not way back, but you know what I mean, like in 2005, Masters of Rock, and started singing. I was like, okay, I like that. Love me a dramatic soprano. So I just had them both in my head. Kind of at the time, there were singers that I recently newly discovered and was really into. And then I thought, it'd be really cool if I got Damian to feature on the album as the dad. So I just sent him a message on, I think it was either through his website or on Facebook. It might be through his website, but yeah. And then we had a couple of, he was initially amenable. We had a couple of chats, some phone calls to iron out the details. And then he said, yeah, that'd be great.
Cool.
Laid out the kind of recording plans. And then I thought, well, this is wicked. I've got Damian Wilson singing the part of the father. Wouldn't it be amazing if I then also got Dianne to sing the angel? But then I didn't do anything else with that. I just walked around for a month thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I got Dianne to do that? And then I eventually thought, well, maybe I should actually just try and do that. So I did, and she went for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, good. That's cool, man.
Yeah, really cool. Very happy with that, obviously.
Yeah, sure. They added a lot to the record. And that's really cool. And as well, like, they were just like the first people that you wanted, people that you sort of idolized in a way. And
for both
to get them on the album like that.
Yeah, totally. You know, for both of them, it wasn't a case of we're writing these two parts and then these are the people who ideally I'd like to have it. It was, let's write a song for the father and hope that Damian will do it. And then it was a case, okay, let's rework these songs and write some new ones to write the part of the angel in and hope that Dianne will go for it. There weren't really other options either way. And I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't had them, because they were so like specifically written for those voices.
Yeah.
You know, everyone voices like, I don't know, foot shape. Everyone's is very different. And because everything about them was written for those particular voices, and so I'm just really glad I didn't have to try and figure out what I would do if neither of them went for it. Because I hadn't really thought that far ahead.
And I suppose, I suppose that it's not only their voice profiles, but the fact that you have this story and these characters in mind, and you need someone who can like play this perfect, antagonistic father figure and angelic kind of maternal figure and things like that. So I guess it's really important that you have the right people in place for that. So
yeah, absolutely. And again, that was true of both of them, because like Damian, obviously, as well as being kind of the prog rock singer, which is how I first saw him, he's obviously done also lots of more acoustic stuff, so voice acting. He's done Jean Valjean in Les Mis, so I knew he had this particular skill set to cover every base that would be required of him. And then Dianne, obviously, angelic soprano, also though dramatic soprano with a whacking great enormous fucking voice to do that really kind of stereotypical like metal soprano thing, which is consumer-wise is my main jam, like beyond all else.
Right.
So yeah, really got everything covered.
That's cool. Is there what production of Les Mis was Damian in? That sounds awesome.
Off the top of my head, it was this could be completely wrong, so don't quote me on it. But off the top of my head, I feel like he could have been done either a sort of contained one on the West End or standby on the West End, and then touring leads as well, or something like that.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, but like, despite being a massive Les Mis fan, and will you stop running in circles, child? No. Despite being a massive Les Mis fan, and particularly Valjean fan, I hadn't actually somehow ever come across him doing that at first. So I didn't even know that. And then he casually mentioned it when we were having a phone call one day. I was like, sorry, you done fucking what? Like,
yeah. What
perfect.
A role.
Yeah.
And now you said it, like I can.
You can totally hear it, right?
Yeah. I hear it. I picture it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. What a masterpiece. I saw it on the West End a few years ago. Yeah, it wasn't him, but yeah, that would have been very cool. But that time, Javier, he really stole the show, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that he's got good songs. Bit too baritone for me in places, but really, really good music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so when did Adrian Benegas come on board?
So that was Pete, obviously, Pete Rawcliffe. And he'd mentioned when he'd had a song out that Adrian had been involved with it. And again, because this was my first time doing anything, so lots of it was just a case of me throwing mud and seeing what stuck. And so I didn't have a lot of things planned out ahead of time. It just kind of blundered forward with things and just sort of made it up as I go along. And it got to a point where we really just needed to start thinking about the instrumentation. And the options were either try and put together a band myself, teach them the parts myself, MD it myself to make sure it sounded right, or find someone who could deal with that for me, either on their own or with their team or whatever. And then I suddenly remembered that Adrian existed because of learning about him through Pete. Pete put us in touch. So I was like, can you basically just be the band for this, for the studio, and then just do whatever? And he went for it. So it's him and Diego, either replaying most of the parts or putting them through better software instruments. Some of them stay the same. So quite a bit of the piano in the album is still Bo or Holly playing because they recorded that piano themselves, and then it was already an acoustic piano sound, so it didn't need changing.
Cool.
But yeah, a lot of that was just, again, by chance. I knew someone who knew someone, which is really how so many things in this industry work.
Yeah, for sure, Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm interested as well, like, for the solo project outside of the album, you do have a band, right?
Yes, yeah. So for live performances, got a really cool, good guys who play with me. Who are all very good at what they do and doing it with me, and which I'm very grateful for. Yeah.
That's cool. And like, sort of timeline-wise, how did like forming that band go with having the album and stuff?
Oh, it was subsequent to the album. It was either subsequent to the album being written or subsequent to the album in fact coming out. I've got no head for time as I say that. Yeah, it's, I'm fortunate in that I'm currently I'm at music uni, so it was very much a case of asking 4 of my friends, can you please do this with me? Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
So I mean, 4, cool. Theo, obviously you know Theo, Sam, Dempsey, Gus. Yeah, 4, right? Yeah, 4, because we're a 5-piece with me. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. And you've done like a couple of gigs and stuff. I remember speaking a bit on the podcast that I did with Theo. He mentioned about it. But back in those earlier gigs, you were like playing all covers and stuff. You weren't doing the Tommy and the Angel stuff. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think, some of Tommy hadn't been released yet. Maybe only the single had. But yeah, and also it's, I think the first gigs happened, I think, before the full album had come out. And then the other ones were not too long after it was. So I only want to be so cruel to the musicians that play for me. Don't feel like going, okay, prepare this entire 10-song set list of new stuff which you've never heard before by next month. So some, we're in a better position now to gig even more of that material now, I think.
Cool.
And there's new, unreleased yet, but new stuff as well that exists,
Fantastic.
Which can come into that as well.
Cool. So are you planning on playing live much? Like, is that much in the plans at the moment or in the near future for Archie Caine solo band?
It's not in the plans, but it's not currently the thing that I'm specifically planning, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, that's cool. I want to talk to you about the other things that you're doing, but as we've kind of touched on various things, I think the best thing to do would be if we could go like all the way back to when you first got into music and when you first kind of see this journey beginning. And your journey from then up until now, like your musical journey, as it were. Where did that begin?
Two main points. The first of them, I was, I think, 8, something like that. It was my first Saturday at like a kind of Saturday morning theatre school thing locally.
Cool.
1 hour of dance, 1 hour of drama, 1 hour of singing. Singing teacher was a retired opera singer. And it just clicked instantly for me that this was a thing that I really liked to do and was turning out to be quite good at. The second point, I was 14. I was on holiday in Portugal with my brother, my auntie, my uncle, and then their daughter, my cousin Hannah. And Hannah would have been about 4. My little brother would have been about 10, and I was about 40. Something like that general kind of age group. And we'd gone somewhere. My uncle had gone to some pub or something. We were all of us on our way past the pub back to the hotel. My auntie sent me in to get him. And up in the corner, there was a little TV playing music videos. And it was Evanescence's Bring Me to Life, which I'd never seen before in the wild or elsewhere, but which completely captivated me. And that was the particular point. More that random like bar encounter with Evanescence.
Wow.
Which kind of set the tone.
And you just like heard heavy metal type thing. And
yeah. So
what's this?
That really set the tone, I think, for the next whatever 31 minus 14 is years.
I see. So it started with musical theatre class, essentially, and then around 14, it was like, wow, you heard like heavy metal, or was it particularly like sound that Evanescence had, or
I think it was specifically that, but then also that was the first one that I counted. Maybe if it had been, I don't know, Lacuna Coil, it might have been different.
Yeah.
It was, I think very specifically that combination of heavy music, but with like clean, trained vocals, which really kind of stuck with me.
So it's because you could see you had that resonance from the kind of musical theatre world.
Maybe, yeah, I guess.
And, okay, yeah. But I suppose, as you say, that was the thing about Evanescence, especially at that time. It was just such a massive hit. Like Bring Me to Life. I mean, that was a number one, like massive track.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, because when I was a kid, I was always watching the music channels like Kerrang and Scuzz.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, same.
Probably if you're not in the UK, you might not know that. But those are like the rock and metal MTV type channels. And Bring Me to Life would always be on there.
Yeah.
But the thing about Bring Me to Life is that it would be on all the other ones as well. That was just like a mainstream hit.
Yeah, it was on top of the pops.
Yeah.
And you had this kind of great surprise, which I remember of the kind of general public seeing both that on top of the pops, but then also seeing like the other stuff they did as well, which was, not the kind of, it wasn't a common experience, I think, for the general top of the pops watching populace at large.
Yes. I mean, it was, for all intents and purposes, like a gothic metal track, right? And it was like a number one pop hit, basically. It was, so
the crossover we didn't know we needed until it happened, really.
Yes, yeah. And I've come to realize, like now, after talking to lots more people and hearing other people talk in interviews and whatever, that Evanescence are probably one of the absolute biggest gateway bands of our generation.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people,
especially for women as well, right? In metal.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think so many people who've gone on to like me, who am Nightwish obsessed or anything, initially came across the kind of wider genre of symphonic metal because they originally came across Evanescence, who kind of straddled that numinous halfway point, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. So when did you first hear Nightwish? Was it soon after?
A few years after, I think. I was. I remember I was scrolling on MySpace. Remember that? And
I do, yeah.
People would have like music videos or whatever on their profiles, and I happened to go past one which was "Why Your Lips Are Still Red," and like, yes, if you're watching and are feeling very cross because that's not officially a Nightwish song, yes, I know, cope.
Is it not officially? Yeah, it was a funny transitional song.
Yeah, it's like on the one hand, like there's a bunch of people who will go, well, yes, but it's not officially a Nightwish song because it's just that Tuomas didn't want to release it under his own name. It's like fair, valid, However, it's got lots of the people from Nightwish in.
Yeah, it's Marcus,
and it also comes out on like streaming or whatever as under the Nightwish button. So, like, for all intents and purposes, we can refer to it as being a Nightwish song. We all know what we mean. Some people at the Nightwish fandom does like to fight about things
any
like
fandom
whether something is an official Nightwish song or whether or not we should still prefer someone who is amazing but left the band 17 years ago or whatever, like as opposed to just why don't we just like enjoy the cool music because it's nice.
Of course, that's just gatekeeping and things that you get in any fandom, and it goes with the territory.
Anyway, so I scrolled past this music video and liked it and looked into them, hopped off down to HMV to buy a CD back when that was still a thing that anybody did. They got their best of album, one of them, Highest Hopes or High Hopes, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, saw them a few years later in London with Annette.
Cool.
Pretty much that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, Nightwish would definitely seem to be another one. It's like Evanescence and Nightwish. Those are the two. Those two, like especially in symphonic metal, they seem to be like the ultimate gateways. Like probably someone cites one or the other, if not both.
Along with Epica and Within Temptation.
Yeah, exactly. They're almost the next tier in a way. But
them fighting words.
Not in terms of quality, but in terms of maybe popularity, but especially that sense of
maybe accessibility
it seems to have. Yeah. I mean, God, it's hard to say, but I would have to. I feel like I want to say that Epica is probably my favorite of all those, but as you say, gotta be careful. We can debate all sorts here.
No, I'm very fond of Epica, but Nightwish is more to my particular taste. And then I also adore Within Temptation, but it's weird because they hit for me the same buttons that Nightwish do, but what they do is and always has been wildly different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like I was definitely into Nightwish had a big impact, and Evanescence as well. I feel like Epica is probably closer to my taste as you were, but like Nightwish definitely has that huge nostalgia to it. I remember as well Epica, like when they first came out, and it was like Cry for the Moon, video with them in the studio and stuff, and that was incredible. For a long time I just listened to that track again and again until like actually getting into their stuff. So that's cool. And but I remember as well, being on MySpace when that whole thing happened with like Taya leaving and then them announcing Annette. I actually remember being quite surprised in a way when the first single came out with Annette. I think it was Bye Bye Beautiful.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And the fact that she had a more sort of, I guess, poppy voice than the operatic Taya voice definitely threw me. I was like a kid, bear in mind. But how do you feel about that transition?
So I missed it when it was happening. I think I didn't realise it had been a thing. So I was just listening to Altaria tracks and I didn't know that whole thing had happened. And at first I was really upset just because it was not what I was familiar with. But no, the Annette era for me was like peak Nightwish experience. I'd have to quantify that because obviously everything that they've done since I also really love. But that was like, adolescent discovering a new band for me, and then discovering this next singer, and that particular, Annette, particularly in the studio, was just absolutely magical. And I think, if they'd had another opera singer, they wouldn't have been able to go in the same direction that they had since, because they had, to all intents and purposes, a pop singer join, an accomplished pop singer join the Symphonic Metal band, which gave them the freedom to do something completely different to what they've been doing before. I love that. For me, I think my favourite whole album is Dark Passion Play. Obviously, there's songs on other albums that I like a lot more than some songs on Dark Passion Play, but as a complete done thing, Dark Passion Play is probably my favourite album ever. And I think, I like the fact that they've really, they've had an opera singer, then they had a pop singer, and now they have a metal singer. And I think, it's been 20 years or something now, that they've been going, more than that maybe, all the time spearheaded by these three wildly different, really accomplished women. I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, that's cool. And what do you think of Floor then?
Oh, I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
Oh, I love her. Yeah. I would crawl a mile over burning sand to see her perform. I finally did, actually, in
nice.
In London. When was it? Whenever they recently performed in London, February.
Oh, I remember seeing you post it on Facebook.
That was amazing. That was the only concert in the last 10 years I've ever not worn ear protection at.
Oh, really? Wow, that's very sensible.
I suddenly realised that I didn't want to do it by half measures. It was a Floor Nightwish concert, but she's incredible.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She suits it so well.
She does. I was a fan of After Forever. I think the Decipher album or something I listened to quite a lot. But then I remember when she joined Nightwish, and I saw them in London as well, 2012 or 2013 maybe. It was literally her first tour with the band. Yeah, and I remember just being blown away. Yeah, man. She was awesome.
I just think, because obviously she's got that kind of... I mean, she's an incredibly accomplished vocalist and has been doing it for years and years and years, with the other bands before that. And so she's got this incredible versatile voice, which means she can do whatever on the new material, but then can also really competently do stuff that was written for Talia to sing, or that Annette was singing.
All the other stuff.
Yeah. But without
Where do you
mimicking
go from
them
here? Either. They're stuck with Floor now, right?
Yeah.
She's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, so you had this point then, anyway, when you discovered this music. Where did it go from there? Did that make you decide, I want to be a singer that sings this kind of music, or,
I don't really know. I don't think so. It just kind of, just sort of gradually happened, really. Yeah.
So at this point, you're still doing theatre stuff?
Yeah, and then when I went to music school initially, my end kind of ideal goal was, at that point still, that I would love to be a musical theatre performer professionally, which I'm fantastically glad I didn't do now. Both because I wouldn't have done the things that I have now done instead, and also because, really, looking back, I am just incredibly unsuited to that. I'm far too thin-skinned, not nearly disciplined enough. The industry,
brutal, isn't it?
Yeah, the industry is already saturated. It doesn't need an extra me, So,
Fair.
In hindsight, a relief.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still, becomes such a huge part. It's a real core of what you're doing now.
Oh yeah, and I think vocally as well, because as I say, I had really good singing habits beaten into me. Well, not literally beaten into me, but from when I was 8, which just kind of stuck. And then obviously liking musical theatre material and singing a lot of it, it's all very quite technical and demanding. So I never really had an opportunity throughout my 20s or whatever, even when I wasn't really doing much, to kind of sing with poor not to sing with poor technique, because obviously I've sung with poor technique plenty of times for various reasons, but never because I didn't know it was a thing to aspire to.
Yeah, I see.
So sometimes I've sung with poor technique because I've been lazy or because I've been pissed or whatever, but not because I wasn't aware that it existed and couldn't be bothered about it. Yeah,
which is different, I think, to most people, especially in rock and metal. Like, because a lot of us start where we just get in a room with a bunch of mates and we're just trying to make a load of noise, and somebody picks a mic and does something, and then at some point you realize that you have to learn how to sing. So you definitely had a different approach to that, where you really knew how to sing, and that's how you came into it. Yeah,
pretty much the complete inverse of what is commonly done. Because for me, it was always a voice first thing. Because like that was, I was never going to be really the instrumentalist or foremost a composer. It was always as a singer and trying to get the most out of myself in that as I could.
And so did you do a lot of theatre, and what kind of stuff did you do then?
Did a lot of lessons with a lot of musical theatre like teachers.
That's good.
Various kind of more like local performances or that kind of thing. And then just going to see a lot of shows and obsessively listening to a lot of soundtracks and trying to make the same noises that, say, Jean Valjean was making, or Marius was making, or Elphaba was making.
Yeah. And so when you went to see shows, like local shows or at the West End?
Both. Yeah. I think I've seen Les Mis about 20 times now. My mum and my auntie were big fans as well, so they introduced me to that world.
It's incredible.
When I was young.
Les Mis is like such a masterpiece. I always think it's a masterpiece, but if I ever listen to it, I'm just floored by how much of a masterpiece it really is.
That and Wicked, and I'm also very fond of the musical version of A Secret Garden, which I've never seen because it hasn't ever been active when I've wanted to see it, which is a shame.
Is that something to do with Secret Garden, the like Celtic music, or is that something else?
I don't know what that is. No,
okay,
it's a musical based on the book The Secret Garden, which was also a film, and then that had famously had Rebecca Luker in, who's one of my favourite like top sops, who is sadly dead now. I'm also very fond of. Oh Jesus! Why can't I remember the name of anything today? Catherine of. Anyway, it's a show. There's a book, and they made a musical out of it. And I'm going to have to actually look it up now, but I'll keep talking as I do. I forget what it is, but I also like that as well. Basically,
how about? I mean, I feel like Phantom of the Opera has to be obligatory if you're into musical theatre and metal, and Nightwish.
Yeah.
Or is it too obligatory for you?
I do not love Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Really? Well, I mean, surely as far as musical theatre goes, that's quite a controversial statement.
Yes.
Why?
I will.
What is it about?
I will move on from that. However, I do like very much Andrew Lloyd Webber's Starlight Express. However, I confess, I love the book Phantom of the Opera. I cannot abide the musical.
Wow.
Lots of very talented people in it, and I love what they do, whoever they happen to be at the time. But it doesn't do much for me.
There's got to be something to this. Like, I mean, I feel like Andrew Lloyd Webber is probably considered, well, he's certainly up there as what would be considered the best musical theatre writer, or certainly one of the most successful. So what is it about him that doesn't do it for you?
It's not professional. I don't feel it's professional to list publicly the things one doesn't like about another composer. So for diplomatic reasons, I won't. I'll tell you later. Suffice to say,
man. Certainly got my intrigue. Anyway.
Suffice to say, it doesn't really do it for me.
Cool. All right, fair enough. Well, that's certainly interesting.
And fair's fair. I'm sure he'd hate what I do as well. Life goes on for both of us.
Do you know? I remember I saw it in a documentary once that a very similar thing happened with Andrew Lloyd Webber and David Bowie. because I think Andrew Lloyd Webber had made some comments about hearing David Bowie in like early 70s and being like, I don't understand this modern, pop rock music. Like this just like is not good to me. And David Bowie, like that totally ruffled his feathers and went to see Jesus Christ Superstar and walked out halfway through saying it was just a load of shit, basically. So there was a bit of a thing there. Yeah. But yeah, it happens, fair dues.
Test of the D'Urbervilles. That's what that other show was called, Test of the D'Urbervilles.
I'm happy we got it in there.
There we
cool.
go.
I'm going to have to check that out. I don't know that one or the Secret Garden one. So
I don't know why it just came into my head then, but yeah, that's
we got it.
Yeah.
We got it. Well, we managed to get that contained, I suppose. Musical theatre then. At what point did you did you go, like, were you in any bands like at school, or like at what stage did that, you start to think about singing like rock, metal music, that kind of stuff?
I don't know, it was very much always a thing I liked the idea of doing, but it was only a thing I started to do really very recently.
Okay.
In the grand scheme of things. Most of the time, I just it was a thing that I wanted to do, and I sort of quietly in the background unconsciously beat myself up that I wasn't doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. So it only really kind of consciously, actively became a thing around the start of Tommy and the Angels, apart from one very bleak and abysmal audition for a band when I was like 17, which was just terrific. Occasionally in the morning you just wake up like at 3 o'clock in the morning for no reason with just some of your most cringeworthy memories prancing about in your brain. It's one of those. Yeah.
Oh man, we have to have those.
Yeah. So it's
what are we allowed to know what it was?
It was just
made it so...
nothing even in particular. Just the whole thing was so awkward for some reason. And if by any chance some of the people from whatever town it was that I went to who were in that band that I auditioned for see this and recognise me, no, the fuck you don't. We'll just leave that there.
Yeah, fair dues. I mean, these things, especially when you're starting out, when you're teenagers, there's all sorts of things. I definitely had some of those as teenagers. Like, I always found it quite a crazy story that my wife, Maria, said that she auditioned for a metal band one time when she was a teenager. And she has such a kind of like, a soft voice somewhat. And her audition song was Chop Suey by System of a Down.
Amazing.
Probably the worst thing you could possibly try and give her to sing. And yeah. So
my audition song for that particular time was Decode by Paramore.
Wow.
In the original key for some reason.
Damn. Yeah. Exactly, because I said when you're teenagers, you don't think about this stuff. You're just like, oh, well, let's do this song. It's a cool song. Yeah. And then
I remember that their dad
goes horribly
and kept like coming in and getting involved.
Ah.
That wasn't why it was awkward. It was me-centric awkward. That was just another thing I remembered that
sure
made me wish to die.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll move on. So, but you were doing that stuff as a teenager, and then you moved to Brighton to go to BIM, is that right?
No, but I moved to Brighton and then went to BIM.
I see.
I mainly just moved to Brighton to move to Brighton. BIM being a music school for anyone listening.
Yeah, that's what I was going to address. Okay, cool. So you found yourself in Brighton and then you started going to BIM. I think you told me off record that it was some kind of like music entrepreneurship type thing that you were studying, right? Yeah,
they call it like career musician or professional musician, something like that. Like, because it's not a kind of conservatoire training, but it's so you'll study what your particular discipline is, and then like music business, live performance stuff, sometimes production stuff. Rah.
So you're in there as a singer, and you still get singing lessons, and you sing in bands like performance
so
workshops?
back when I was at BIM, it was so you'd have like technical development and then also live performance workshop and then session styles are all different. So like 3 or 4 different sessions on singing.
Okay, but then you're also doing like business classes and things like that.
Yeah, history of music industry and that kind of thing, as well as what things to do. Yeah.
And so surely at this point, to be studying music, you are thinking about being a career musician, right?
Specifically, yeah, like singing generally, but no more really than that. It was mainly for me kind of planning on 3-4 years of singing lessons with some other stuff peppered around it, as opposed to planning for a particular career or anything.
I see. So you were thinking more about, I guess, something to do at that time.
Rather than focused on the discipline of singing as opposed to, having a particular goal and then.
Yeah. So singing has been the real big kind of focus and consistent through your life.
It's always been voice centric. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I know that Theo also mentioned that when you guys met, you were doing some sort of function type thing, right?
Yeah. With some other friends of ours and some other people, which was really cool. Like, so, and then Theo came in. I remember the band leader at the time, Chris, saying, "Well, we need a drummer. I know someone who's such a good drummer who could also just play MIDI drums on a keyboard live, and it sounds like it's playing a drum kit." And I thought, okay, that's clearly bullshit. Whatever. Turned up to the show, heard the sounds of a live drum kit being really well drummed, and there's just Theo in a corner with his keyboard tapping it out. Wow. So yeah, that turned out to actually be true. But then there isn't anything that Theo can't do, really.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
irritating people that just do things really is. Like that. Yeah.
yeah, you're right, man. He has that quality where it's like it seems like he can just do everything literally easily,
any instrument or thing.
And in like no time as well. I'm like, that would take me like so long.
Honestly, so much, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. But was he playing gigs, playing drums on the keyboard? Or was that
sometimes, sometimes on drums, sometimes on keyboard, depending on what the kind of space
keyboard
and
drums
tech requirement was. Yeah.
Wow. Fair dues. Cool. And then I guess from there, at some point, it's gone on to you guys forming the band and you starting the Tommy and the Angels project and that stuff.
Yeah, well, I knew there was no way I was going to get through it. The kind of prep of the album and everything, all on my lonesome. After the composing that and stuff, so got an office, got Theo involved as well, and then we worked on that together for about a year until a few months after the release. By which point, there was no more really that needed doing to it. So yeah, it's just kind of been a constant ever since.
Cool.
And then now he lives just around the corner from me. So yeah, like literally cool, a 2-minute walk from my house. So that's worked out quite nicely, really.
Yeah, nice. That's cool. So yeah, cool. Well, that's I got like you've given us a good idea of the story arc there. There's definitely a couple of things I'm interested in, like filling in some of the blanks on. I think that the first time I ever came across you, was your appearance in the Golden World Archive.
Yes. Yeah, that's really cool. That was my first kind of genre appropriate feature. So Will Kahn's really awesome albums with some other really cool singers as well.
Yeah. So how did that one come about?
I think, will you get out of the bin, dog? God, again, I've no memory. This is a constant theme, but if I remember correctly, pretty much messaged me and said, "Would you be interested in appearing on this? Here's a demo." And so I listened to the demo and went like, "Well, yes, of course I would."
Cool.
Yeah, and then
and you just met on Instagram or something.
Yeah. And then it was the same after that with Woods of Wonders as well. Gideon Ricardo's album. Well, no, the album's called Lost. The concept is Woods of Wonders, and so that's how I've then met some other really cool people from that as well. And that's really nice because I had forgotten this particular detail because I wasn't really very involved with Woods of Wonders at the time. But because I came into it quite late in the proceedings after my album came out. My headcanon on that is that they liked the idea of getting me involved, but waited until my album came out just to check I could actually sing before asking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that one of the guests, obviously, lots of really cool guests have featured singers and musicians, and one of them, one of them was Philippe Giordana, one of the co-founders and composers of Fairyland.
Of course,
who sadly passed away last year. And I hadn't clocked, and I'd seen it once before, but it's ages ago before I'd got involved with Woods of Wonders. So I hadn't clocked until after I got the Fairyland gig.
You hadn't clocked?
I hadn't clocked it. I hadn't clocked until after I got the Fairyland gig that actually I'd already been, despite never having met him and him sadly passing away last year, I have already, in fact, been on an album with him, which I really like. So
there's that
it's a nice
there. It's easy to miss with Woods of Wonders because there were just so many bloody people on that record.
And like people like obviously Blaze and Stephanie and so many other really talented artists. And then so when it first kind of popped up in my awareness, I had to scroll through quickly of all the different people who were involved, vaguely noted that there was a name on there from a band called Fairyland and another one from somewhere else and somewhere else. And then that was kind of, I then didn't have any awareness of the kind of wider cast for a very long time. And so, it wasn't until I was looking for something unrelated, actually, but Fairyland related or something. And then that post from Woods of Wonders announcing Philippe playing some keyboard on it. And that's when it kind of, I then just got the Fairyland job. So then that was a bit.
Oh, just when they posted it?
No. I just, when I noticed it, it was an old post that I'd come across in a search or something or other. And that was a bit like hairs on the back of my necky because I hadn't previously clocked it.
You didn't realise.
No.
Wow.
I'd subsequently obviously seen the post referencing his death and saying they were looking for a new singer. I've gone up for it, got the job, and then after that, been reminded that actually, I'd already featured
on a record
with him.
I must admit, when you brought up Fairyland in context of Woods of Wonders, I was assuming you were going to say that you got connected through Woods of Wonders. So it's kind of even more.
It was something that I had vaguely known and had been filed away. Along with lots of the other wider people who were involved because I hadn't had any direct involvement with them and I came into it quite late. So it wasn't until after the Fairyland thing that I realised I actually had that connection, which I really like.
Cool. So how did it come about with Fairyland then?
Open audition, man. Like I saw their post basically saying, that we've decided that we'll carry on per Philippe's last wish, obviously after his very sad death in October last year. Commented on the thing saying like, I'd be up for it. Please, can you send me the thing? So Will sent me tracks to listen to and record along to, and I did. And competition for that wasn't fierce in the sense of it was vicious or competitive, like, for example, musical theatre, because never let anybody tell you that those people don't have knives out sometimes. It is...
Oh, I bet, man.
Oh, honestly.
I bet.
But when I saw some of the other people that were going up for it, I nearly just didn't bother. Like Noah Edward Simmons, for example, incredible Vox. And I was scrolling through and listening, and some people had posted their audition tapes like publicly, and I was listening to them, and I thought, to be honest, I made myself do it because I knew I'd regret it if I didn't. But the pool of other talent that was already up for it was so vast, I just assumed at one point that I just wouldn't get it. And then I did.
Wow. Congratulations.
And I got a text, WhatsApp from Will saying, hey, I've made a decision following the auditions. Can we make a plan to talk sometime tomorrow? And I remember it's like 9 o'clock in the evening and I was sitting in the bath and I texted him back instantly saying, look, with respect, you cannot leave me hanging like that. One way or the other. I'm not moving from this spot, but I require some kind of context for that, for my sanity.
Yeah, I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Yeah, no, honestly, it was.
Wow, congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
Really awesome. That's really awesome. I mean, from an objective standpoint, like I would have, seen you as one of the amazing candidates alongside all of the others. But I can imagine from your perspective, seeing all of that talent must have been daunting. So
yeah, very daunting. So even just really to be considered among them, was already something.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. And so obviously, I understand, things might be under wraps and stuff, whatnot, but do you, is there much you can say about like plans and stuff regarding Fairyland and what you see your role kind of being other than being the singer?
No comment.
Yeah.
For now.
It's still quite fresh, the announcement, I suppose.
Yeah,
so.
There is, there are things that I could comment on but should not, so I will not.
I understand. So,
I look forward to it also.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I certainly look forward to it. Is it safe to say that Fairyland is perhaps your primary focus for the moment, or certainly one of them?
It has nothing that is more important than it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I can compartmentalize quite well between. So it's not like. Now, why can't I articulate these things? I'm really quite bright.
It's okay. I've got you on thin ice. I know.
The general gist of like, there's nothing that's more important than it. The other important things aren't now less important because of it, because it's just that and that's that.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. So you mentioned that there's cool stuff coming with on the Archie Caine solo project and things like that as well. So
there's some more.
It's not like you've had to completely wipe your slate clean or anything.
No, definitely not. It's solo work still exists, definitely, and has probably about the next couple of years worth of stuff planned and in various stages of existence as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's fantastic, man. Lots of really exciting stuff. And that's cool. And I suppose, you might have other stuff. Is there anything else that you can talk about anything that you're working on or doing, or is it all secret stuff?
Secret stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That's kind.
Basically.
I have a totally random question that's come to my mind then. I listened back to your interview with Dianne and Theo. Yeah. I listened to it when it came out and thought that it was really cool. Might have potentially been the first time I saw Theo as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened back to it yesterday, and you guys were talking about Dianne's jewelry company and things like that. I wanted to ask, is your nose ring from Dianne's jewelry company?
No, it's not. I have a bracelet, a necklace, and some earrings from that, which is really quite handy because I bought all of those well before getting her involved in the album. So completely by chance, but it did then mean actually that when I wrote to her through her website, as opposed to messaging her on social media about the jewellery stuff, when I wrote to her through her website to ask if she'd be interested in hearing some demos and so on, the luck was she recognised my name. And knew that already that I existed because
she was like, "Oh, I like this guy
because I've been buying her gear for the last year." Yeah,
oh, that's cool. Okay, so other pieces of jewelry, because I knew that she mentioned about you being a customer, or you might have mentioned about that, and then I just thought that I feel like this very large septum piercing you have is almost like an iconic signature. So I wondered if that was related.
No, that was, I tell you what it was. I was having a very bad day a few years ago, and I thought, I want to do something that kind of puts a spanner in the works of having a bad day, and that then makes the day about itself instead. So I went and got a fat ring put in my nose, because.
Cool, man. Cool. Has it always been that fat? I feel like it's just got fatter and fatter.
You have to get them smaller and then kind of, I think, probably stick around this size.
Nice.
Yeah, they normally start around like that kind of
Oh, you have the spectrum on your
size. Yeah. And then, just gradually put them slightly bigger in. It's ridiculous because when you first get it, all you can do is walk around all day going like this. You can feel it on your lip.
Yeah, must be funny. Wow, cool, man. Is there anything else that you would like to get in there then?
Probably, but nothing that isn't escaping me at the moment.
That's cool. Well, if anything comes up, then we can do this again sometime.
Not related, but just in case you live in a bag and haven't heard of this yet. Dog, stop. Come here. Prancing around next to me because he knows if he does that, then I'll stop and pay attention to him. Dianne's new single, After the Storm, which is wonderful, and you should all go and listen to it specifically by buying it from Bandcamp.
And is that's how people can best support you as well with what you're doing, right?
Buy my shit on Bandcamp too. Yeah, there we go. Because musicians never have very much money, and I like being able to buy food. Bandcamp.
Good a reason as any.
But failing that, obviously, whatever streaming services you use, but Bandcamp, if one can afford it, is the best way currently, I think, to directly support artists unless you're doing the same thing but through their own website.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, man, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. And
likewise.
Thank you for taking us over your story, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And my dogs.
Cool. Yeah, pleasure, man. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Creating a Universe. Special thank you to Archie for joining me. I really enjoyed our chat. Be sure to check out Archie at archiecaine.co.uk and on social media at archie.caine. Links will be in the show notes. That's all for this one. I'll see you next time.